Welcome to Monday, September 15th, 2025. Your Day with a Podcast brought to you by the Advocate Injury Attorneys. If you've been injured in an accident, don't face it alone. Get an experienced local Wyoming attorney on your side. Free consultations at wyomingadvocates.com or call 307-800-1952. You deserve an advocate. A little bit of an aurora borealis showing up last night. We did have a K-index hitting 7 as a quick shot of aurora came in, and a nice shot there out of Glen Rock, Wyoming last night. We're going to see less summer, more fall. As the headline suggests, another trough of low pressure coming off the Pacific Northwest will come in behind the one that was over the west all of last week, then moved finally over the weekend. But now another one's going to swing in behind it. So areas of rain, areas of thunderstorms for some this week. Now the placement of the heavier rain is not going to be as much as it was on the western slope and west of the divide as it was last week. But there's going to be activity nonetheless in many areas. This will also keep temperatures in the mild to cool category. Nothing cold around the low. On the edges, it'll be warm, but underneath the low, it'll be a little bit cooler. The pattern is getting more active here over the next couple of weeks, and we'll talk about that here in a moment. Now, we'll start off with some snow. This was especially true Friday night into Saturday morning, but also Saturday night into Sunday morning. Depending on where you were, snow levels got as low as they have been so far this early fall season. There's a shot of Rocky Mountain National Park. Snow near Leadville, Colorado. Some good shots of snow there. And then also, kind of a little bit hard to look at, but you see Carter Mountain near Cody, Wyoming. Some fresh snow on the mountains of northwestern Wyoming over the weekend. And then out on the plains, showers and thunderstorms. Some of you got some really significant rain. Some of you just got enough to settle the dust, as the storm and the trough, as it developed the rain and thunderstorms, kind of came in patches. And we're going to see kind of that happening again this week with the next trough of low pressure. But we're late into the thunderstorm season, but we're still getting thunderstorms, an opportunity to pick up some lightning strikes like what we have there. And then across the region, we're going to see clouds like this again this week as this next trough works its way on through. So nice to see some September precipitation. Sometimes you can get pretty dry in September, but so far the first couple of weeks of the month going to be able to be producing more in the way of shower and thunderstorm activity. CJ Carter reporting over an inch of rain in the Lake McConaughey area over the weekend. And boy, another beautiful shot of a thunderstorm there out of western South Dakota. Some nice cirrus clouds there in Monument, Colorado. Then a beautiful sunset in the Black Hills of South Dakota. And then over 2 inches of rain reported by Richard in western New Mexico this weekend. Fire sky of rain, and boy, beautiful shot there. And as we go ahead and take a look all across the region, similar photos. This one from the Jackson area. And then beautiful sunsets across the region. More cloud photos there out of western South Dakota from late last week. And then just really great cloud opportunities for photographers. We'll see that again this week in many areas. Nice to see some rain in northwest Colorado. Rain fell just about every day last week on the western slope of Colorado. Really nice rain in many, many areas. And you can see the clouds are getting lower. They're just looking colder. And the fall colors really starting to get going. Now, they're just kind of starting, but you know how these fall colors go. They're dependent on latitude, dependent on elevation, and dependent on a lot of things, but they're starting to really show in some areas. Here's our next trough. You can see it's over the western areas of Wyoming where the low center is, and we've got enhanced cloudiness here in areas of showers and thunderstorms right there where the upper level low is. Now notice last week we had a feed of moisture coming into the low that was parked over Oregon all of last week. So we don't necessarily have that subtropical flow like we did with last week's system. And this one's placed a little bit more to the north and east. But we do have that system there. Now it's off down here. You can't see it. It's just below where I cut off the photo here. We do have Mario, Tropical Storm Mario. We talked about this last week, how we were likely going to see the formation of a tropical storm. It looks like it may not become a hurricane. We'll have to keep an eye on it. But this moisture is going to come up into the parts of western United States later this week. We're going to have to keep an eye on it. So you can see this low here. This is what swang through over the weekend. This is the same low that was in the Pacific Northwest last week. But we've got this next one coming in right behind it that we showed you on the satellite imagery. This system is going to swing eastward over the course of the next 72 hours. It's going to move slowly. We still kind of have that omega block right here. So that still is making everything move really, really slowly. So we're going to see showers and thunderstorms today across Montana, Wyoming, parts of the Dakotas and Nebraska and Colorado. Heavier showers and thunderstorms here in northern Mexico, closer to that tropical moisture. This is where we're going to see the heavier showers and thunderstorms tomorrow. A very active day in Nebraska, Kansas, parts of Colorado. Garden variety rain and showers and thunderstorms elsewhere, but another little surge of moisture getting further north into Arizona and New Mexico on Tuesday. This is by noon Wednesday. It's taken its sweet time coming on through. So that's going to produce, could have some pretty good shots of rain, especially in this north-south axis right here. Just daily chances of rain and thunderstorms into the mix. Also some showers and thunderstorms right along the Interstate 80 corridor into northern areas of Colorado and across parts of Montana as this low just takes its time coming on through. You can see moisture from Mario headed maybe up into Southern California later this week. Gonna have to watch that. Keep an eye on that later. And here are your temperatures here over the next 5 days. A little bit below average in the Central Rockies because of that trough, but notice the ring of warmth around it. So there's not any really strong influx of Canadian air into this low. It's just a Pacific low like what we just experienced. But as we saw this past weekend, the atmosphere is cooling off gradually, so we will have a little bit more snow over the highest elevations during the first half of this week with this next trough. By Saturday, the trough gets east finally, but it's taking its time moving. It's moving across the upper Midwest by Saturday. A more zonal flow. What is gone in this photo? Well, the omega block pattern is gone across the United States. It's a more west to east flow, more of a Pacific flow coming into the nation. So what that's going to do is that's going to start moving things. Things are going to start to move once we get beyond next week, and it starts next week. Notice this deep area of low pressure up here into the Gulf of Alaska, back into Alaska and the Aleutians. Notice the tightly packed black lines here, and a strong gradient is forming between the high here in the Pacific and the low pressure in Alaska, British Columbia, and the Northwest Territories. This is a harbinger of change right here. We'll show you what the jet stream winds are going to do. So once we get into the weekend and the blocking pattern is gone, things start to move. And what happens when things start to move in late September and early October? Well, you get a more active weather pattern. You start to see more of a latitude change in storm systems from north to south. This is by Monday the 22nd, so this is a week from today. We have this strong gradient here still. We have a deep low up into Alaska, and we start to see the weather pattern wanting to show signs of getting more active. Possibly could have an Atlantic hurricane out there in about 7 days or so. We'll have to watch that. But what will happen here, once we get beyond the 22nd, with this tight gradient forming, we're going to start to see stronger cold fronts, and cold fronts that will have some Canadian connection. This is next Thursday. Whoops, let me go back here. This is for Thursday the 25th. We start to see a penetration of a stronger front come out of that low in the Gulf of Alaska. So things will start to get a lot more interesting once we get into next week and after that. And if we look at the jet stream pattern across the Pacific, so here's British Columbia, here's Alaska, here's the Aleutians, and then here's looking all the way back over into Korea, looking just across the north part of Japan. These are the 30,000 foot winds, or what we would call the jet stream level winds. Now this is for today, but if we look at what happens over the next 2 weeks, I want you to see the change in the strength of the jet stream by looking at the change in the colors. We got blues and greens and yellows here. We have a strong jet stream wind helping to form this trough here in the Aleutians in the Gulf of Alaska region early this week. But if we go out to next week, see how there's a strong, what we'll call zonal flow, but the jet stream is strengthening in the North Pacific. A week later, it remains strong and is getting stronger. And you see these streaks? These streaks will start to make the jet stream more wavy by the end of September into early October. A more wavy jet stream means more cross-latitude flow, which means the opportunity for Canadian air to get further south starts to go up. So things will be a lot more interesting come at the end of the month into early October. You expect it to. But this is something that we really didn't see last year at this time. Have yourself a good Monday. We'll see you tomorrow.